All right, let's kick it off, Porter. So, welcome to Holid AI. It's hard to say. Three. This is the third year that we have done this free generative AI update. So we do three of these updates per year. We've done a start of the summer one. We have done a back to school one, and then this was our original one, which was the holiday one. So we're excited to share some updates from the last few months in the world of generative AI. We'll start with some introductions of ourselves here.
So I'm Chris Porter. I am a professor in Department of Math Computer Science here at Drake, direct our AI program. Snyder picked out for me my favorite holiday movie is The Grinch.
I thought you would change it. You just left it.
I like the image.
So I'm Chris Snyder, professor in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication here at Drake. I teach classes on social media, on multimedia, visual communication, web design, generative AI, and I'm also Buddy the Elf for my favorite movie of Elf. And then together we're Innovation Props LLC. So we just, really try to help people understand generative AI tools through workshops, through custom training, through events like today. Love to help companies implement generative AI at their company, at their organization. We keep up with the world of AI so we can write a email newsletter. So we write twice weekly now email newsletter on major developments in generative AI. Try to have an Iowa focus as much as we can, but the Tuesday newsletter tends to be news and a few other fun things. And the Friday one goes a little bit deeper into the world of generative AI. And so if you want the slides from today, we'll show this again at the end. So you can, if you need to make your choice later. But if you just came here to get the slides and then be out of here, this QR code or that link will give you the opportunity to click a check mark and get the slides from today. There's a check mark on there if you want us to sign you up for our email newsletter, and one if you're interested in us contacting you to work with your company or organization or just talk about working with you. So QR code will take you to that. And like I said, we'll show that at the very end as well. And then we're excited to have Technology Association of Iowa with us today, sponsoring this event. And so I will instead of just reading this slide, I'll let Tyler say a few words about TAI.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. Tyler Weingarten with Technology Association of Iowa. I'll be very brief. We are thrilled to support really anything that the Chris's are doing. I can tell you as a member organization that represents over 360 technology companies across the state of Iowa, Chris and Chris are the folks who we point our members to when we have questions about AI. They are by far and away, I think, the best speakers in this state on the subject, and we are thrilled to support. So I won't belabor anything on my end other than to say thank you guys, Chris and Chris, for always being great partners of us. And certainly for everybody else on the webinar, if there are ways that you would like to connect with the larger technology ecosystem in the state of Iowa, please reach out to technologyiowa.org, and we'll love to get you connected. Thanks for letting us support this, guys, and appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tyler.
Okay, and then last thing we'll say before we jump into the fun today is that we do have a workshop coming up on Tuesday. It's 3 hours, it's virtual. We're going to dive into Microsoft 365 Copilot. So if you are interested in deciding whether that's a tool that you want to use at your work or you're using it at your work, but you have not yet received the training you want on that, this would be a good opportunity for you. So this QR code will take you there. You can find it on our website. You can find it lots of places. You'll find that available. But we'd love to see some more people from here attending that workshop. Okay, we have done a survey. Went a little too far, the Porter. The last 2 years we've done this. So I'm going to launch this same poll. I did add one more question here, but these are the same questions that we have asked the last 2 years. So we'll see for these first two how some of this information has changed, how your answers have changed over the years, and we'll share that out in our newsletter either Tuesday or next Friday. But get a sense of how much people are using both these chat tools and then also some of the image generation tools that are out there.
Wow, this is fun to watch, actually. Oh my gosh. It's who's gonna win on this first one?
Okay, and then while maybe some people finish that up, you're going to finish up, we can show these next couple slides, Porter. So this next slide, so we always have a little intro from Santa to these. So we thought it would be worth, because there's been some huge advancements in the world of AI video, be worth showing last year's video before we show you this year's. So this is what we considered state-of-the-art AI video last year.
Hello friends and happy holidays. It's been an exciting year in the world of generative AI. Thanks to ChatGPT, we found a route that gets us to every house in the world in less than 3 hours. That used to take us all night. And all these kids are using Notebook LM to make a podcast about their Christmas lists. It's wild. I'm sure Chris and Chris will tell you all about that, unless they want to find themselves on the naughty list. Take it away, guys.
All right, still highly recommend Notebook LM for that podcast about your Christmas list. But here is this year's video using a tool we'll talk about a little bit later.
Hello! It's been a wild year in the world of generative AI. So grab some eggnog and sit back. My friends Chris and Chris are about to share with you what's happened in the past few months.
All right, so big changes there, and one of our items a little bit later will discuss how some updates in this area. Okay, so before I hand this over to Porter for these first three, so 7 major trends we're going to talk about today. So one is just LLM updates, including one that happened, big one happened yesterday. Google taking the lead in the Gen AI race. Legal developments we always include in these, so there's been some interesting things happen in that area. We'll talk about how AI content, mostly multimedia content, has seemed to start to enter the mainstream much more. The AI browser wars are heating up. Video tools are really starting to blur the line between real and AI. Was that the real Santa? We don't know, right? Who knows? And then we'll talk about AI images going bananas with Google's Nano Banana as our last item here. So Porter, take it away for the first few.
All right, I'm gonna get started with updates on LLMs over the last 3 months or so, and they've really picked up, particularly in the last month. So since August of this year, we've seen more LLMs, large language models, get released, like updates to the previous ones in terms of like new iterations, new versions. So ChatGPT now is powered by GPT 5.2 as of yesterday. So I'll explain that, but that was prior to that, about a month ago, GPT 5.1. Gemini from Google is now on version 3. Claude has a family of models, and they've released different versions of them at different levels. And now we're at the kind of 4.5 level, and then Grok's at 4.1. I'm going to explain each of these. Okay, so the long-awaited launch of GPT-5 was in August. I think we did talk about that in our back to school session. But then, for as long as we waited for that, hearing for, years that GPT-5 was coming, within a few months, GPT 5.1 dropped and just supplanted GPT-5. So that's the base model for all the users. And there's a auto switch still between the thinking mode and the kind of instant mode. And then as of today's the 12th, so yesterday, that's still, I check my calendar to make sure that's correct. GPT 5.2 was launched, and now that is the baseline model. And if I, with my paid account, click on legacy models, GPT 5.1, which is just not even a month old, is already shelved as a legacy model. When 5.1 came out, OpenAI pitched it as a smarter, more conversational ChatGPT. What's relevant is when GPT-5 came out, there were some people who were upset that a previous model, GPT 4.0, was gone because they liked the tone of 4.0 and they thought that 5 was too clinical and cold. And so 5.1 was a response to, at least in part, that concern, to make 5.1, to make 5 replace it with something that's a little more easy to interact with. 5.2 now, that's kind of pushing the reasoning power of this thing. Okay, so there's that. This is from their when they release this thing. We want, AI should not only be smart, enjoyable to talk to. And so there's this 5.1 improves meaningfully on both intelligence and communication style. There are 8 different personas that you can choose for 5.1. kind of work with. And now, as of yesterday, here we go. This is kind of worth reading. The average ChatGPT enterprise user says AI saves them 40 to 60 minutes a day. Heavy users saves them more than 10 hours a week. We decide 5.2 to unlock even more economic value. It's better at creating spreadsheets, building presentations, writing code, perceiving images, understanding long context, using tools, handling complex multi-step projects. We're just figuring out what that looks like, but it looks like here where there's more of a push in the kind of productivity sphere of things. Okay, but in the same window of time, in between these two models, Google's Gemini got updated to Gemini 3, and the Pro level came out. So Gemini 3 Pro was released on November 18th, so just less than a week after GPT 5.1, and already has hit the top of the chatbot leaderboard. And so in that kind of back and forth, um, this is currently the state of the art, and I'll show you chatbot leaderboard stuff in a little bit here. But 5.2, and that's part of the next section, was its release was a response to this model. And also on top of that, for if you're shelling out a lot of cash for Gemini, $250 a month to be a Google AI Ultra member, you have access to Deep Think mode, which is like a high-powered reasoning mode. And in terms of the benchmarks around like humanities last exam and then this ARC, Artificial General Intelligence benchmark, this mode absolutely crushes the performance. I mean, I think the performance is like double the score of like every other model. So this is the kind of state of the art in terms of high level reasoning. Okay, so Claude, I had mentioned before, maybe you've heard us say this a bunch of times, comes in 3 versions. The small is Haiku, middle is Sonnet, and then large is Opus. And in the same kind of 3-month window of time, all 3 of them were updated to version 4.5. And I believe that 4.5 for Haiku was made freely available to folks as this move to kind of stay competitive. But Opus 4.5 is their largest model, has the largest context window, it can handle the most amount of information, and as very new and already performing quite highly. And then Grok came out also in this same window, Grok 4.1, and the thinking mode of this, again, the reasoning mode, is also very highly rated on the chatbot leaderboard. Okay, so that's the first set of updates, but let's really focus on that Google side of things, and we're going to see more Google examples of AI in different modes, the different kinds of things that it generates throughout this presentation. But let's talk about how it's taking the lead. And so this is a headline from 10 days ago. OpenAI declares code red as Google threatens the AI lead. And so this is, I think, driven in part by that Gemini 3 Pro, but also the image generation. When we see AI goes bananas, that Nano Banana image generation tool is really impressive. The video feature, I mean, right now we're starting to see Google catch up. Google was the company behind the transformer technology. That's the T in ChatGPT that came out in 2017. Google was developing their own language models in the late 20-teens into the early 2020s, but OpenAI put theirs out first and took that market share. And so now Google is playing catch up, and it looks like they're doing a decent job. Okay, so this is even I think a week ago, a hint that GPT-5.2 was coming because of Gemini 3, and now, as of yesterday, that hint is now reality. Okay, so where is Google Gemini on the chatbot leaderboard? And I'm going to actually, if you go to the chatbot leaderboard, every time we do one of these presentations, we've always shown it. Now, the LLM chatbot leaderboard has 8 categories. So it isn't just about text. There's other ones as well. So right now, we have Gemini at the top of the text processing, and then followed by Grok, Opus 4.5. So Grok's reasoning model versus their kind of plain model. And then for Claude Opus, its reasoning model versus a plain model. GPT 5.1 High is a version of GPT 5.1 that's only accessible to developers. We haven't seen GPT 5.2 on this. Maybe if I refreshed and checked today. But you can see Google is pretty high up on there. In terms of like web development, coding per tasks, Claude Opus is at the top, and Gemini is second to this. And then we see some OpenAI ones later on in the list. But here's the interesting thing. Let's look at the other 6 categories. Okay, so vision tasks. So in terms of giving it some sort of a image input and having a conversation about it, Gemini 3 Pro, top of the list. Text to image generation. Who's at the top of the list? Gemini 3 Pro for image generation. For image editing, top of the list, Gemini 3 Pro. For search tasks, so AI-powered search-based tasks, Gemini 3 is at the top of the list. For text to video, the Google VO is up there. And then for image to video generation, Google VO is up at the top as well. So this is a crowdsourced forum. You might think, well, Google's just steering all their employees to kind of like doctor these numbers. We'll have to look further into that, but just kind of taking this at face value, in 7 of the 8 categories, a Google product is now the top performing, at least again, according to these benchmarks judged by people who are, carrying out these, kind of testing these tools against other tools in parallel. And then on the 8th category, it's in 2nd place. So that is pretty impressive. And I think, the definitely cause for why OpenAI might consider this to be a code red moment. Okay, and then I'm going to lastly shift over to legal developments. This was my trying to figure out a way to like represent law as a Christmas party, like the scales of justice. And okay, sorry, I don't know what's going on with the hands here, but okay, so there's I think that the developments on the legal side with respect to intellectual property is a story of maybe friends, enemies, and frenemies. So that's most of what we'll see here. But then also on a more serious note, the kind of issues of AI relationships or AI, people using AI for counseling and then making decisions on the basis of that and maybe making the wrong, sorry, not maybe, definitely making the wrong decisions, leading to terrible outcomes. This is something that is now starting to move into the legal sphere. So I definitely don't want to downplay that last one. I'll get to that in a second. So the biggest item I would say in this 3-month period was Anthropic's payout for the use of pirated books to train their models. And so the Anthropic lawsuit that was kind of unfolding over a long period of time finally came to a couple of developments that are pretty interesting. So one is that they basically came to a settlement for the use of something like, I don't recall the number, but hundreds of thousands of pirated books, and so there's a payout at a certain amount per instance. But then in that same trial, it was found that Anthropic had used physical books that they purchased, and then they hired Google's the person who was in charge of the scanning and developing of the Google Books corpus to basically convert all of those physical books into training data for models by cutting the pages out of the books, having them all kind of read in and then destroyed. So this was like a destructive scanning. And the judge in this case found that that was actually fair use. This was when you physically buy a book, you have a lot more leeway with what you can do with it than if you like illegally download it. But as a precedent for what happens if you illegally download stuff and then train a model on it, like this is a very important precedent. Okay, so OpenAI is the subject of lawsuits, and there's different ones. So George R.R. Martin is part of a class action lawsuit from authors against OpenAI, and the question of like, is OpenAI's use of the training materials from these authors sufficiently transformative? Does it pass the kind of tests for fair use? And in this case, prompts that generated alternative Game of Thrones books because maybe they'll never come out. And so someone's like, I don't maybe like how the HBO series like finished this. Let's write it in a different way. And it seemed very much in the style of George R.R. Martin. A judge found that convincing enough to kind of proceed that there could be some sort of violation there. More recently, there is another lawsuit involving another database of illegally downloaded books that OpenAI had somewhere and then deleted it. And the question is, what did they do with it? And what were the communications behind the scenes about it? And a judge ruled that has to be part of those communications have to be part of the discovery. So we're going to learn actually what is going on through this lawsuit with that data, how it's used. Right, that could be quite consequential for OpenAI. They may have another settlement coming along the lines of what Anthropic is. We also seen image generation lawsuits. So Warner Brothers joined a copyright battle against Midjourney for, if you go to Midjourney and you describe, a superhero like Superman, it will just make it for you. And so questions of whether these image generation tools have like stored on them images, that's kind of part of these lawsuits. And in the UK, Stability AI, which was a company that created Stable Diffusion, got a win when a judge decided or ruled that, in fact, this wasn't a primary violation. There's a question about some sort of secondary violation of copyright if they were training in the overseas a model to be used in the UK. There's some very subtle questions going on there. By and large, the Stable Diffusion came out uh, in the clear, except for trademark violations because of Getty watermarks showing up in some of the images created by Stable Diffusion, which just means Getty images were part of the training data. Okay, but that was not as impactful a decision for the pro IP crowd. What else? Record labels claim that Suno, that makes the music, illegally ripped their songs from YouTube. So Suno has been in the crosshairs of the recording artists. And similarly, Motion Picture Association blasts OpenAI over Sora 2 video copyright opt-outs. So when Sora 2 came out, there was this if you didn't want your video content used to train new versions of Sora going forward, you had to opt out. And I believe that OpenAI backtracked on that. But again, a similar kind of concern about use of intellectual property. Okay, but there's also partnerships going on. Okay, so in the terms of the backs and the frenemy kind of thing, so Getty Images that had sued Stable Diffusion or Stability AI partnered with Perplexity, which is an AI search a platform that draws on lots of different models. And so now Getty images are part of the database that can be used to create images through Perplexity. But then Perplexity doesn't always have friends. So Perplexity got sued by Amazon because you could use Perplexity to make purchases through Amazon without having an account. And Amazon thought that was undercutting their business because if an AI is doing the shopping for me, the AI doesn't care about the ads that it sees or suggested items. And so all of their kind of like sponsored ads inside of Amazon just get ignored by the AI, and that undercuts their model. Okay, so that's their business model. So that's another challenge. But then again, more partnerships. So Universal Music Group and Udio, who creates it's a music platform, have a licensed agreement. So now they'll create music using Universal Music Group music. And then Warner Music, right? Warner Brothers is suing Midjourney. Now they partnered with Suno to have a similar deal of using Warner Brothers or Warner Music artists to train models. And we'll have one more partnership in a second. I'm just out of time on my section, but this is the last one, and I don't want to, again, this is not an intellectual property one. This is a headline from yesterday. So OpenAI and Microsoft face a lawsuit over ChatGPT's alleged role in a Connecticut murder-suicide. So a 56-year-old man murdered his elderly mother and himself, and there were conversations in ChatGPT that where basically ChatGPT was telling the guy what he wanted to hear, not telling him what to do, but giving him affirmation as kind of this person against the world, apparently, and went on to perform this heinous act. And so the question of liability here is on the table. And that same question is being handled in court cases about teen suicides when kids are getting connected to AI and feel like they're in a relationship with them. And then it turns out that that's not really a thing. And they're maybe heartbroken. And I mean, obviously we're seeing, we're straining the bounds of what social relationships look like, what it means to get advice from these things. A lot of people use these things for counseling and getting kind of insights. But there's certainly limits that we're seeing, and so understanding what the world looks like, where this is possible, who's responsible, who's liable, how do we navigate these things safely? That's a very important legal issue that we're going to continue to watch closely. Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing, and I'm going to let Chris continue.
I was like, Porter, please hand it off to me with something about murder or suicide, and he managed to get both of them in there. So that was all right. We'll lighten up here, maybe with the idea that AI content is really starting to enter the mainstream in some different ways, right? So I'm going to talk particularly about audio and video content. So we are starting to see more AI generated content on our screens and in our headphones. And so not just Suno videos filling up your short form video feeds. We'll show a little bit of that later. For example, Netflix has said that Gen AI presents a significant opportunity across its streaming platform to, create things in cheaper ways. Brands including Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Volvo, Heinz, Toys R Us, and many more are using Gen AI in their commercials that they make. We've seen some AI artists on the Billboard charts. A little asterisk there because we'll talk about what that really means. But for example, AI artist Breaking Rust's song Walk My Walk topped the country digital song sales chart during November. It debuted, so Breaking Rust debuted at number 9 on the Billboard Emerging Artist chart on November 1st, driven by 2 songs, Walk My Walk and also Living on Borrowed Time. And so here's a screenshot from Spotify of Breaking Rust, which again is just an AI artist, not a real person. And so Living on Borrowed Time and Walk My Walk, both with more than 8 million streams of those songs. So here is, we'll play a little bit of Walk My Walk. So you can see this song that reached number 1 on that chart. And there's also, I put some comments down here from YouTube commenters as well to read while we're listening to a little bit of this.
Been beat down, but I don't stay low. Got mud on my jeans, still ready to go. Every scar's a story that I survived. I've been through hell, but I'm still alive. They said, slow down, boy, don't go too fast. But I ain't never been one to live in the past. I keep moving forward, never looking back, with a worn out hat and a 6-string Strat. You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'm gonna keep on talking and walk my walk. Ain't changing my tone, ain't changing my...
Okay, that's about as much as I can handle. AI music, again, going mainstream. So an Ipsos survey recently found that 97% of people can't tell the difference between fully AI generated and human-made music. According to Billboard, at least 6 AI artists have made it into Billboard rankings in recent months. And here's the asterisk on Walk My Walk being ranked number 1, right? So there's some thought that maybe the numbers are being gamed. So it reached number 1 on the country digital song sales chart with approximately 3,000 units sold. And so it cost $1 to download this. So someone could have just spent $3,000 to make this happen and then make this, a story that we all pay attention to, and probably worth the $3,000 for the publicity this has gotten. So not to be outdone, I thought, hey, I've got a couple free hours. Maybe I can create my own number 1 song. So haven't got this on Spotify yet, but we'll give you a little taste here of Holiday Chaos. So I use ChatGPT for ideas for this. And I use Suno to create the actual song, and many AI image tools to create some images to go with this. So we'll just a little taster, but once you get these slides, the link on here will take you to YouTube to watch this. Okay, it goes on like that. On YouTube, you can find it if you're interested. Maybe coming to Spotify soon. All right, on the video side, so Coca-Cola once again gave us a holiday video ad this year. So Coca-Cola, says that they continue to, quote, embrace human creativity and AI technology in its holiday storytelling. The brand worked with San Francisco-based studios Secret Level and Silverside AI for a pair of refreshed takes on The Holidays Are Coming that push the boundaries of technical precision, cinematic storytelling, and production quality. So Coca-Cola has been doing its Holidays Are Coming commercial since 1995, and it's been AI created the last couple years. So we'll play this 2025 one here, and there's a link on here for the 2024 one if you get these slides and want to look back.
Holidays
So it gives us a good look into just kind of where generative AI video is. Obviously, there's plenty of backlash to this. So Alex Hirsch, who's the creator of the Disney series Gravity Falls, commented on an X post that showed this new commercial, and that post he commented on had 60 million views of this video on X. But he said, fun fact, Coca-Cola is red because it's made from the blood of out-of-work artists. Holiday facts. So clearly not everyone is happy with this happening. And I saw some complaints online, and I try to really kind of see what people are saying. Like, so one thing I noticed is that the truck really does, change subtly, or if you're a truck person, maybe a lot from one shot to the next. But definitely, making some real progress in terms of what these look like. So Secret Level, which was one of the companies involved in this, also does last year they did they're a very AI Yule log. I put my colon in the wrong spot there. So the 2024 one is out. They're asked, and this is a preview of the 2025 one that they haven't put out yet. But the idea is that this is going to be something you could put on your TV screen, like people would put down a show that just shows a fireplace or something playing. So
Ho ho! Secret Level and Kling present a very AI Yule log 2. Last year, thousands of families stopped by our fireplace to spread holiday cheer. This year, we're going even bigger because anything can happen in this room. All powered by your ideas. And an all-new AI-generated holiday album to set the mood. Drop your most creative, festive, Yule log ideas in the comments, and we'll bring them to life. Happy holidays from all of us at Secret Level and Kling.
And they're using Kling this year, which we'll talk about a little bit here more in a second. But last year's one was like an hour and a half long, right? So you can put on and let it go. All right, AI browser wars are starting to heat up. So we've had a new wave of AI native browsers come out in recent months. So these are powered by agentic and assistant first models, but the idea is that your browser is AI powered. And so AI kind of sees everything in that you're doing and can assist with things that it couldn't before. So ChatGPT Atlas launched in October for Mac only, but it just brings, I'll talk about each of these individually as well. Perplexity Comment has been around for a little bit longer, but became widely available in October of this year. Copilot in the Microsoft Edge browser. So if you're a Copilot user and you use Edge, launched in July of this year. And then Gemini became widely available in Chrome in September of this year. So most, if you're a Chrome user, you've got some access to use Gemini in there, even if you're a free Chrome user. So ChatGPT Atlas, they say it embeds ChatGPT directly into the browser. You can ask questions, get summaries, compare products, or analyze data about the page you're visiting without copy, pasting, or switching tabs. Just open up as a sidebar, which is what all these do, and ask it the questions right there. It can remember key details from the sites that you visit if you give it access to do that. So later chats can draw on that browsing context, or you can say, hey, remember last week I was looking at sites about this topic. Open all those sites up again, and it remembers that and can do that for you. Chrome, pretty similar, but they say it's a personal AI assistant, helps you easily understand content on the web and get tedious tasks done using the context of your open tabs and browsing history. So it can summarize videos for you, right? We don't have to sit down and watch videos anymore. We can get summaries right away. It can find past tabs that you've gone to. It can analyze pages even when logged in. So I see that our learning management system we use at Drake, it can access that if you're logged in. So in theory, our students now, I need to test this to make sure, but we could have a quiz. They could be doing it in Chrome, and all they need to do is open up Gemini, and it's going to give them the answers to whatever's on their screen. So it's changes the way we teach a little bit. And then in Edge, so Edge calls itself your AI browser with Copilot built right in. So whether you're reading an article, watching a video, exploring a website, you can ask Copilot anything and get quick, relevant answers without ever leaving the page, right? So the idea that AI is embedded in our browsers now is really going to change maybe how we use the web in some cases. Back to video. So video really starting to blur the line between what is real and what is AI. I feel like we've reached this point where you really can't trust any video you see to be real. So is it real or AI? The Washington Post had a headline recently said, how to spot an AI video. LOL, you can't. AI video is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish from real video. These bunnies fooled millions and millions of people, maybe some of us in the room. Everyone thought this was real, but this hasn't always been the case. So our benchmark for AI video is to make a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. So here's a side-by-side of the original Will Smith eating spaghetti from just 2 years ago, maybe probably more like 2.5+ years ago, side by side with something today made with Kling AI. And you can see we've come very far. We could watch Will Smith eating spaghetti all day. We must move on. So recent video model releases. So OpenAI's Sora 2 came out in September of this year with its own Sora app. Gemini VO 3.1 was released in October of this year. Kling AI, that made those Will Smith videos there and that made the fireplace things earlier, was just announced last week, their version 2.6. And Runway 4.5 was announced December of this year, but I noticed I don't have it yet on my Runway account. But Runway is kind of the original AI video company here, so interesting to see what they're doing there. And not a new model, but worth noting that right before Sora released its video app, Meta Vibes, so Meta released Meta Vibes, which is a feed of AI videos in the Meta AI apps that launched in September of this year as well. So let's start with some examples of Sora 2, right? So this is OpenAI Sora 2. And then one feature it has here that's really interesting is something they originally called Cameo, but then they got sued by the company Cameo, and now they're called Character. And it might go back to Cameo. We'll see how that lawsuit how that is settled. But you can give it your likeness, and then you can share your likeness with other people or publicly, and people can make videos of you. So here's one using my likeness, and we have 2 cats in my house, and my nightmare, I tell my kids, is that we get more cats for Christmas. And so here's my video of getting cats for Christmas.
First one of the morning. No way, there's a cat in here. All right, next gift. Another cat? Seriously? Tiny hat and everything. This can't be real. Every Christmas present I open has a cat.
All right, so that's just kind of telling it to make a video, right? So it does the kind of short form video multi-clips thing. And then here's one that's not using that character feature of Santa.
Hey, you left the fireplace on. Do I look like chestnuts to you? I'm roasting out here. This coat is 90% wool. I come down one chimney and whoosh, now I'm a human torch. Next time, maybe a plate.
All right, I didn't even tell the jokes. It made the jokes itself. And then just yesterday, we had an agreement between Disney and Sora. So those character things clearly were trained on Disney characters, because when it launched, you could say, you know, I need Mickey Mouse doing blah, 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 and it would do those things. But yesterday, Walt Disney Company announced it will invest $1 billion into OpenAI. As part of that, Sora will gain access to a library of more than 300 characters across Disney's brands, including Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, for 3 years. So for the next 3 years at least, Sora users will be able to create short form videos featuring characters like Mickey Mouse, Ariel, Belle, etc. Right? So those will be available in Sora. So it's kind of like we train it on your data, and then we create an agreement with you later on. It's kind of an interesting world there. All right, VO 3.1 is really the really interesting one here. So that's what I used to make the Santa video toward the beginning of this. But just again, becoming very lifelike, realistic looking videos.
A lot of kids want to know, are you real?
That's an interesting question. I think I'm probably AI.
Okay, so VO2, and then Kling 2.6. So here's they announced a bunch of stuff last week. So I'll just play their video that shows the things they announced during the week to just get a sense of sort of where some of the stuff is going.
This year.
This is definitely the best day of my year.
It felt like the story found its heartbeat.
Hello, everyone. It costs $9.99.
This is so delicious.
definitely an area I'll be continuing to watch and continue to share updates in these updates we do. And then my last thing here is AI images going bananas for Nano Banana. So Gemini 2.5 Flash image launched in August, and it was codenamed Nano Banana, and nobody wanted to use the name Gemini 2.5 Flash image, so we just continued to call it Nano Banana. So this came out actually one day after our back to school update that we did. So if you want to use this and use this for free, look for the little banana emoji in the Gemini app to use this. But it's a powerful image editor, right? It's the original one. So you can upload an image and use natural language prompts to make precise targeted changes. For example, tell it to change a person's clothes, alter a background, or even shift the lighting of a scene, and it will do those things and leave everything else the same that you want. I tested it out on my intro to Photoshop assignment that I do, and my students have to prove they can do 5 things in Photoshop. Nano Banana at launch could do 3 of those things and did them all in like a matter of seconds, where it takes students much longer to do that. And then more recently, we had Nano Banana Pro launch. So Pro was released on November 20th and improves on Nano Banana. So Pro can help you visualize any idea and design anything, from prototypes to representing data as infographics to turning handwritten notes into diagrams. So you've seen people have a lot of fun with Nano Banana Pro. So one thing we've seen is a trend is people building like live weather images for their city. So here I use the prompt that's on the left, but you tell it your city that you want it to pull live weather data and also show elements from, so this says, 45-degree top-down isometric miniature 3D cartoon scene of Des Moines featured its most iconic landmarks and architectural elements, and then pull in the weather and the words Des Moines on there. So can do a nice job of that. It can also do these kind of bigger graphics. So this one, I know John Telford's on this call. This reminded me of some of the things he used to design for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch when we worked there, although his are way much better than this. But I asked it to create an illustrated journey map that shows the plot for the movie Elf. That's it. That's the only thing that I gave it. And you see that it, kind of goes through the storyline of the story of Elf, right? And goes through that. Now, is it perfect? No. I see Hobbs' apartment is on there twice for some reason. But very amazing that it can do these sorts of things with such a simple prompt like that. Since Porter's favorite movie is The Grinch, he didn't change that. I also did one for same thing for How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And you see again, it does this nice job of building this map. So you can use this in a lot of different ways. So you can potentially use it for ready-made things, but just to kind of prototype things, just to kind of think about, oh, how may I lay out something like this? Its ability to get so many things correct is just unprecedented and amazing to see what it can do. ChatGPT is responding to, it's playing catch up with Google right now. And so they responded to this. They have 2 new image models. So they're called Image 2 and Image 2 Mini are already appearing in evaluation sites like that LM Arena that Porter showed earlier. Early testers report sharper details, better color fidelity, and removal of the yellow tint that plagued Image 1 outputs. But doesn't necessarily have them higher than what Gemini and Nano Banana are doing in this field, right? But these 2 companies are pushing each other, and so these will continue to improve and get better. Okay, so 12:45 we got through this, which is wonderful. I love this like not only Porter made an image of us, but then put us on your sweater as well. So we can't get. If only we would have been on the image of you that's on the sweater too. Could just kept going. All right, so we will stick around here for until 1 o'clock here. We'd love to answer questions that you guys have. So here's the QR code again. If you want to get the slides from today, sign up for our newsletter, or just get in touch with us, you can fill that out there. But we would love to. So we appreciate you guys coming today. So we try to shoot for 45 minutes for this, and then usually stick around for 15 minutes of questions afterward. But we appreciate you guys coming here. If you've got other places to be, but if you have some questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or throw things in the chat, and we'll answer some questions. So Telford, I think the question is, I think the answer is definitely yes. So, I mean, I've used Adobe Illustrator to do some things before, and I feel like I've seen some things that mention vectors that I haven't seen. So you can use, Porter, you can answer this maybe a little bit better. Like can't you use Claude and it creates images in a different format? What is that called, Porter?
SVG.
An SVG? Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so I
scalable
don't know if that
vector graphic.
SVG is then editable as a vector, but I feel like it's made with code, so it probably would be. Okay. John says yes, it is. So yeah,
We haven't experimented with that, but that actually strikes me as like a pretty significant uh opportunity, especially to have control over something that you're making, right? So I think that maybe we put that on our 2026 wish list for like getting better at generating SVG
yeah.
images.
Yeah, because you have to use Claude art. It has to be an artifact, right? So you have to tell Claude to make an artifact. Is that what you have to do, or
Well, at least early on, I don't know if it's the same way now, but that's the only way that Claude makes images, I think.
okay.
Have you guys seen anyone, like local businesses and organizations, using generative AI for like social media, or like maybe like they're like printing out posters or something like that?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a link real quick. Um, so really what we see a lot of is that, a lot of companies that are working with these local like marketing firms or social media companies, the companies they're working with don't want them using generative AI because they don't yet know the results of some of these lawsuits. And so that's uh, holding some companies back with that. But certainly yes. But what I also see is when I do see a company share any sort of AI image on social media, I see backlash from that. I see negative comments. And so I feel like we're maybe not to the point where I recommend that people use AI for things they're going to publish to social media, but use it for ideas around social media, use it for prototypes of what you might want to create for a graphic. But the one that we wouldn't even know is, Canva. You can use AI in Canva to design things, and it's really no different than using a Canva template. So, images seem to be moving a little bit slower to be accepted by people maybe than video is, because we've always sort of had, special effects in video. Yeah, it's happening, but it's a little bit of backlash from people. Looks like Science Center of Iowa has a traveling AI traveling exhibit January 15th to April 22nd. So with some wraparound experiences. So there's info on that. So those of you local, be sure to check that out. And so there's a message in here about, I think it's just sent directly to me, about the environmental costs associated with using generative AI. And that was something that was in when I looked at our slides from, I think, last year on this, it's something we came at that there was some, so we're starting to see more data of what that is. But I mean, the answer is that it's astronomical, the amount of energy that these tools are using to do some of the things that they do. And that's certainly something that companies need to think about. I think of something, we have these thinking models now, and these thinking models use more energy than the give me a quick answer models. And so using the right tool in the right place can help you to, less impact on the environment, but it's definitely a conversation to have.
But one of the things we saw a really neat development. So we've had some students here at Drake work with Anthologic in their Antho Labs kind of accelerator on some projects that were solved with AI solutions. And one of the student teams was building I forget exactly what they were doing, but they didn't want any kind of worry about data security, like data going anywhere. And so they used local models from Olama and did all the language processing locally on their own machines. So now you're just like the use of AI is confined to like running it on your machine rather than having to ping some server farm, at a data center. Like the local use of it was effective enough for the tool that they were building. And I feel like we're going to see more of local AI running on our own machines to do a lot of the mundane tasks that we're after because, like, do I need a full data center for my query? if I'm, doing something that I can just run on my own computer. And so if once we kind of right size how we're using these things, I think that the studies have shown if we're using the appropriate tool for the task that we have, the amount of savings is a significant proportion. So that's something that I'd love to see more development, more responsibility for, and even regulation to encourage. And Don's right. We got really good LLM language processing tools in our own heads that are extremely energy efficient.
Question here about Adobe having Nano Banana in there. I've not used it in Adobe yet. I just go straight to Gemini and have used it there. But interesting to see Adobe maybe accepting that they can't do it as well as Google.
Well, it's fun to see former students passing through.
Yeah, also this quote about chatbots more effective to make people vote for particular candidates than actual political ads that's definitely worth reading there. These tools are very persuasive. That's why people are starting to be friends with their chatbots, right? These, especially young people, like it when someone is nice to them.
Don asked how are robotics coming. I would defer to our colleague Alamor Reza. He's in Qingdao, China, teaching right now, but he'll be back. He's our robotics expert and kind of the most deeply entrenched AI researcher here at Drake. So I'm guessing he'd have plenty to say.
But that's definitely an area that's advancing kind of in parallel with what we do, right? I mean, you see the videos online of these robots and it almost feels surreal that it exists. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, we appreciate you guys being here for this. We'll be back again to do this at the end of the spring semester, and we'll hopefully have some other lunch and learn events before that. So thanks, everybody.